Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Conversations in Community. This is the second episode of this topic we're talking about today, and that is diversity and inclusion, and specifically in the workplace, and even more specifically in leadership roles. Why aren't we seeing more people of color in leadership roles, and how can we get more people of color in leadership roles? The first episode really was setting the stage, and I spoke with Kari Davis. She is an expert in this and in so many things. She is a business leader and someone who also has some experience in the HR field. And so she talked about, on top of that experience, but her experience as a person of color, an African-American woman. So she kind of laid the groundwork in the last episode, and now in this episode, we're talking about three things. One, how does a person of color enter into an interview? What are some tips that she has? Number two, for the people who may not have the power of a hiring manager, what can they do to promote more diversity? And number three, for the power brokers, the people who are hiring managers, what should they be thinking about? That is what this episode is all about. So I hope you find it helpful. I know I did. We start with Kari talking about how she coaches her son when he goes in for interviews.
It's always about having the talk. And for us, the talk is about how to be Black in a majority white area and survive it. And to this day, my son is 34, and I still am awake at nights when he goes out with his family. And my daughter-in-law is white, and she's beautiful, and I love her, and my grandsons are, mixed. But I worry about them because of how the world perceives us. And when my son goes in for a job interview, he sits down and I do a lot of coaching with him, and he's gotten really good at navigating not just himself, but being very proud of where he came from, the education he received, and just being able to sell himself. And that is so important when you are interviewing or you want to pull from the BIPOC community, to be proud of who you are, to have that coaching, and to go in and have the confidence to say, you need me here, and this is the reason why.
And to that end, what do you coach him, or what do you coach others like him? What tips do you have?
One, do your homework. Know a lot about the company you're going in to speak with. Get names of who's going to be in the room. Who are you interviewing with? Sometimes it's just one person. Go online to the job site, Google their name, look at their resume or their vitae, or just their profile that they have on the job site, so that you can ask questions that they're familiar with. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't be afraid to share about your experiences, the good and the bad, as long as it's relative to what's being asked of you. And listen. Don't have prepared answers going in where you're not hearing a question, but you turn it into a conversation, so that that fear factor of, I got to get all these answers right, turn into, we're just two people talking, and I'm going to share with you why I'm the best person for this role. When you are a BIPOC person, the first thing they see is your skin color. So you want to be able to get them past that by being able to present yourself in a way where they can't use that as an excuse. While many still do, don't let that be a reason that they use.
Those are tips you were talking about, what people can do. What about who are interviewing? What about the hiring folks? What should they be thinking about when it comes to this issue?
This is why diversity can't be hidden in HR. We have to be at the same table, that is, having conversations about what the organization needs. What are they looking for? What is this going to represent? What is the long-term effect of this role within the organization? How will it be supported? Who's going to be on the team with them? And here's what is needed to help a person grow within that role. If we're not at that table, if we're only getting it after the job descriptions are done, after the vetting has been done to interview people, we've already lost ground on that. We have to be sitting with the chief of HR, the CEO, the director of HR to provide our input about this is what you will see in this community. And if you're looking for this person to come in to engage with a particular community, you might want to pay attention to opportunities that you might have to hire someone from that community. If they don't check all the boxes, where are their teachable moments? Where can they be trained? And overall, would they be a great fit and represent the face of the organization you want the community to see? Now, does it always have to be a BIPOC person? No. You want to hire the best, but you at least want to give them a chance to have that opportunity to interview for that role.
That's great. I mean, because obviously at the end of the day, we all have blind spots. And if
Yes.
you have the same people with the same blind spots in the same room, you can predict what's going to happen.
Exactly, exactly. And holding them accountable so that when they get to the final three candidates, you ask the tough questions, you know, do they represent the community? Do they look like the community? How are they different from the team that's already in place? And if they are progressive enough to hire someone different, how are you preparing the team? Because that is another piece, particularly around culture. If you have an all-white team that is not used to a person of color being either a leader in that team or even being a part of that team, there's some serious training that needs to happen. And there's a lot of implicit bias that happens because people don't say it, but you can see it in their how they look at a person, their body language, questions that they don't ask, or responses that they do give that are, and this is a non-professional word, shady. And of course, the new person is not going to bring that out, but it's up to the director, the manager, whoever is the leader that is supervising the team to bring that out. They need to know what to look for. And if they're having trouble with that, that's when they can go to the head of diversity, the director of diversity, to sit down and ask those questions and not feel that they're lacking in anything, but they want to learn and they're interested in knowing. Without those direct lines of communication, you're not going to get rid of the implicit bias. You're going to fall back on this is what's comfortable, and so this is what I'm going to do.
And last couple of questions, and you talked about the team. So then, someone like myself, I don't hire people. I don't have. I'm not at that table, but I'm assuming there's got to be things that I can do to help with this issue. What would some things that you would advise me to do?
You know, particularly now as we see a lot of people coming together for social justice. One of the things that I keep saying is that we've heard all the platitudes, we've heard all the talk, we're so sorry, blah, blah, blah. We need to see actions. And from our white allies, not only stand with us, but do something because you have the privilege to get into doors that maybe I can't. And to speak on behalf of the BIPOC community and talk about why you care about it and why they should care about it. You have an amazing platform being in the media and being able to use this platform to not only share that message of trying to destroy institutional racism, but to bring people of color to the table to have these types of conversations. And I think the more that the majority, our allies, and others get to see that, then that shock of, oh, I do need to be doing more, and not just putting a Black Lives Matter sign on their lawn, but really being engaged and raising those questions. When they look around the room and everybody looks like the majority, ask the question, where's the representation? Why isn't this community represented? What do we need to do to address that? Because that's a problem. We don't live in a whitewash world, and where white folks have the privilege, they also have the opportunity, and they are at the table where they need to bring us and stand with us and support us. That's the kind of action I want to see, in addition to the financial support that we need to not just hire a BIPOC person and pay them at the lowest rung of the salary, but to say, you know what, your experience means something. And because of your experience and the value add and the expertise you bring, you need to be looked at as your colleagues who are doing the same work and pay them accordingly. We've got a lot of work to do financially in organizations to have equitable pay, not just with BIPOC people, but with women. And that's a story for another day because I can talk 3 hours about that.
And when you say BIPOC, what does that stand for?
BIPOC is Black, Indigenous, People of Color.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess the last question I have, and then if there's anything else you want to talk about that we missed, but you talked about the platitudes. You've been doing this a long time, so I'm sure you've seen the ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
Do you feel this moment is different? Are you skeptical? Why? How would you categorize this moment that we're in right now when it comes to this topic?
There's a sense that I feel this is different. And it's different because I've seen so many people who don't look like me standing side by side. There's hope there for me. There's also hope that younger people are standing front and center, that us old folks have made a mess of things. And so they're now organizing and trying to fix what we messed up so many years ago and to this day. And my prayer is that because of that, and because of the young voices and the activists that are out there, and for them to stand their ground and to separate themselves from the violence and the destruction that is going, and to wrap themselves around the peaceful protesting that is happening, and not being afraid to address that front and center, there's just something in me that sees this moment differently. Will it change overnight? No. I always use this phrase, you can't boil the ocean, but each step we take that moves us forward is better than a step that takes us backwards.